Today, we'll be talking about Jimmy Roseman, aka Jimmy Henchman, hip hop's boogeyman. He was a former music executive and worked with a lot of people, including Mike Tyson, P. Diddy, and The Game. He was very powerful in the industry, and he was also feared. He was always very active in the street life as well. He was accused of setting up a shooting at Quad Studios where Tupac got shot 5 times. He also had beef with 50 Cent and his affiliates and fellow G Unit member Tony Yayo. And he also was accused of shooting Tony Yayo's mother's house. And he also got convicted of killing Tony Yayo and 50 Cent's friend, Lodi Mack. Let's get into the story of one of the most powerful and dangerous men that was in the music industry, Jimmy Henchman. Jimmy Henchman was born on February 5th, 1965 in Harlem, New York, to immigrant parents from Port-au-Prince. And forgive me, I'm not from Haiti, so I might be saying it wrong. His father was named Constantine and his mother Andrea. He had 3 brothers, Mario, Kesner, and Lionel, and 1 sister, Nade. They lived in a housing project with a lot of poverty surrounding them. According to Jimmy's brother, Mario's father wasn't really that helpful when it came to them growing up, and he was very abusive to their mother, which unfortunately led to the end of their marriage. Now, due to the marriage, the mom had to pick up 2 jobs to take care of all of her kids. And during this time, while the mother was away at work, Jimmy decided to join a gang at 10 years old called Untouchable. And during this time, he was always getting in trouble with the law. But at 18 years old, he was charged with robbery and homicide and the possession of a firearm. He pleaded guilty to the firearm possession, and the homicide case was dropped. He was sentenced to 5 to 10 years in Rikers Island, which has the nickname for the Gladiator School. Rikers Island was a very dangerous place. There was a lot of violence that was different compared to other jails and other prisons that was around in the New York area. Even to this day, Rikers Island is still notorious for its violence and the things that go on. But while he was locked up, he learned a lot about the streets. And he started to understand how he can basically make the game of selling drugs a lot better than some of the people that he was on the streets with. And he also started educating this stuff. He started reading about the Black Panthers and seeing how they basically made changes all around in America. And he also was able to get his associate degree. So in 1988, he was released. And by that time, from what he learned being locked up, he became one of the biggest drug dealers in Brooklyn. And during 1992, Jimmy came to his brother to start a music management so he could launder his money. And Mario was hesitant at first because he knew nothing of the music business. But Mario needed the money because he just got out of jail serving 18 months in Rikers Island for using stolen checks. Jimmy and Mario both agreed that they'll make this music business a reality. They started to organize a conference so they would be able to meet with musicians and music executives. And the conference was called How Can I Be Down? And this conference was in 1992. And this conference brought a lot of executives to basically check it out, which was people like Russell Simmons, Lear Cohen, Chris Lighty, and Mona Scott. They even gained further success with helping Salt and Pepper's hit song Shoop.
Not you. The bow-legged one.
Returned gold within 2 weeks. Then another hit by Groove Theory called Tell Me, which hit number 5 on Billboard Hot 100.
Tell me if you want me to give you all my time. I wanna make it good for you.
During this time, Jimmy and Mario was good friends. One of the biggest artists named Tupac Shakur, but unfortunately the friendship wouldn't last. One time, Jimmy Henchman wanted to sign Tupac, but Tupac refused. It also didn't help that one of Jimmy Henchman's associates, Haitian Jack, was a part of Tupac's entourage that was accused of sexually assaulting a woman. But unfortunately, the blame went to Tupac since he was the biggest artist. And then one day, Jimmy Henchman called Tupac, and the argument pursued.
Tupac was on the phone arguing with somebody, and it was really aggressive. And Tupac was saying, yeah, well, whatever, suck my dick, fuck you. When you see me, you see me, right? And yeah, I'm gonna pull up. I'm on my way there now, right? So when he hung up the phone, they asked him, yo, who was you on the phone arguing with like that? And he said, some nigga named Jimmy Henchman. And the nigga said, nigga, is you crazy? Do you know who Jimmy Henchman is and what Jimmy Henchman might do to you? And he was like, for real? Like, he said, so do you think I should take a gun? And they was like, nigga, we all gonna need guns going to the studio.
Jimmy didn't appreciate how Tupac was talking to him, so he hired Dexter Isaac to rob Tupac for $2,500. And Jimmy knew that Tupac was going to be at Quad Studios that day in Manhattan. But things didn't go to Jimmy's plan. On November 30th, 1994, 3 armed men stormed the building of Quad Studios and demanded money and jewelry from Tupac's entourage. And Tupac wasn't cooperating, and the robbers decided to shoot him 5 times. They was able to steal $40,000 worth of jewelry and Tupac's gun. After the robbers got Tupac's jewelry, his friends that was with Tupac that night ran over to come help him. And they wound up calling 911. They was immediately rushed to the hospital. The second day of being in the hospital, Tupac decided to basically leave. He thought that Jimmy Henchman would send out his goons to finish the job and kill him. So he snuck out of the hospital and stayed at a famous friend's house. Her name is Jasmine Guy. You might know her for a role in A Different World. While he was still healing on her couch, he received a message from Jimmy Henchman he never will forget.
He was hiding out. He didn't feel like staying in the hospital. He pretty much was staying in the house, and he was, he was messed up from being shot. And I remember one time Stretch came there, and Stretch said, I spoke to Jimmy Henchman. And Jimmy Henchman said, Pac, you don't got enough money, you don't want to go to war with him. And he was like, Jimmy Henchman said, get your money right, then go to war.
This shooting put a negative light on Jimmy. And for years, he used to refute that the shooting even involved him. And also, too, after the shooting, Tupac made a song saying he wanted payback from the shooting.
Promise to pay back Jimmy Henchman in due time. I know you bitch niggas is listening. The world is mine. Set me up.
Unfortunately, Tupac didn't get his wish, because in 1996, Tupac was gunned down in Las Vegas, allegedly by Orlando Anderson, who they got into a physical altercation in the casino. So the beef with Jimmy and Tupac never had a resolution. The same year in 1996, Jimmy was arrested again on gun charges. While being locked up, his brother Mario took over and kept the business still going and thriving. Within 3 years, Jimmy got released. And during this time of his release, Mario wanted to separate ways because he knew his brother brought the streets into their business. Jimmy rebranded his management company to Caesar Entertainment.
Henchman is a name that deals with some kind of dark side. People have taken henchman to mean different things. So I kind of felt in order for me to get away from that whole thing, I would change the name. And I did my research on what Tsar meant. And Tsar is a Russian emperor or Russian king or ruler. And I felt that was something appropriate for the amount of years that I've been in the music business, that I would become a music czar.
But there was a thing. He wasn't big as his rival, Chris Lighty. Now, Chris Lighty owned a management company, Violator, and if I'm not mistaken, a record label as well. Back in the early 2000s, they were running everything. I mean, they had Mariah Carey, Busta Rhymes, Nas, and 50 Cent. And at this time, 50 Cent was one of the biggest artists around the world. And if you grew up in the early 2000s and you remember when Wingsta came out in the club,
let's make it. You say you a gangster, but you never nothing. You say you a wankster, and you need to stop fronting. And you know we don't give up, cause that's your birthday. You can find me in the club, Bottle full of bub, mama.
The 50 Cent mania was crazy. People had shirts. People were rocking everything that had 50 Cent. People started wearing bulletproof vests. Shoot, they even was starting to go into the gym. But according to Tony Yayo, Jimmy was jealous of Chris Lighty due to having more success with his management company.
Now I know the history.
So let me ask you a question. Who is a pillar of hip hop? Chris Lighty.
Right.
Who wanted to be like Chris Lighty? Jimmy Henchman.
Yeah.
What did Jimmy Henchman do?
You said
Move
that.
on the same block as Chris Lighty. Who did Chris Lighty have? LL, Diddy, Free, 50, Buster. He ran the tunnel at 18. Who did Henchman want to be? Chris Lighty. Who was we down with? Chris Lighty. Beef is inherited.
At the time, 50 Cent was signed to Dr. Dre Aftermath and Eminem's Shady Records. Dr. Dre was working on a new artist from LA called The Game, and he wanted 50 Cent to help him out. 50 Cent decided, you know what, I'm definitely going to help The Game out and put him on a record label, and he's going to be part of the group G Unit, which consisted of Young Buck, Lloyd Banks, and Tony Yayo. 50 Cent worked and helped co-wrote songs on the Game album and documentary, which was a huge success. Everything seemed good on the surface, but Jimmy Henchman was the Game's manager. And he talked to The Game and he basically was like, you know, maybe you should start a beef with 50 Cent or cause some confusion, and that will help out your career even more. Things took a head because 50 Cent was on the radio with Funk Flex kicking The Game off of G Unit.
Both beefs. Yeah. Because Chris Seymour to me, I just want to acknowledge him on the beefs. So, I have never seen a rapper beefing with I thought it was 3, it's probably 5 or 6 credible rap dudes on a record and someone on his label. This is a first for me.
It's just crazy. I mean, you know what? Like, I'm really disappointed.
What was the first thing that Game may have said to make this uncomfortable where you felt different about him?
Yesterday, you know, when he got on the radio. No, it wasn't yesterday. It was Saturday. He got on the radio and he said
tapped him in the vibe, though. You tapped him. You was
no, that was the truth. It was the truth. He was getting dropped. It was being dropped from Aftermath Records, man. They asked me, why else would they let me be a partner on a record that they had signed for 2 years? You know what I mean? Creatively, it got stuck in the mud with it, and I came to help the car move. That's it. I worked on every record this guy's put out to date commercial.
But I mean, like, okay. So I'm gonna tell you what I heard in the street.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
So where does he stand as far as Junior is concerned right now?
Across the street or around the corner. He's not in my camp.
Not at all.
No way.
Okay.
Not after being that disrespectful, and at the same time, it's the same thing. Like for me, I love Dr. Dre.
He started mentioning his grievances of why he just thought The Game was disloyal. The crazy ironic thing is that Game didn't know about this. He was actually at the radio station on Hot 97 with Angie Martinez when he heard the news.
It's Tone, Far Rockaway.
What's up, baby?
I just want to know what's up with Game, what's up with him and 50. 50 talking real greasy, you know?
What exactly? What'd he say?
Somebody asked him where Game still with G Unit. He said around the block. He said across the street around the block. He said next album he ain't doing nothing for you. You gonna sell like 500,000 copies.
That's what he said?
That's what he said.
Wow. What you think about that, man?
Yo, Game, don't hurt this cat. Don't hurt this cat, man. This is a clown, man. I'm from Rockaway, Queens, man.
Hey, yo, you know what I'm gonna do, man?
What you gonna do, baby?
I'm gonna be easy and I'm gonna make good music, homie.
That's all,
And you know what else I'm gonna do, big dog?
What you gonna do?
I'm gonna keep it 100% hood and still cross over.
That's what's up, baby.
All the time, from Rockaway, Queens to Compton.
So that day, The Game was like, wow, I didn't know this was happening. You know, he was in shock that this was going on. But The Game was really pissed off. So he decided to go to one of 50 Cent's other interviews he had later that day. And he tried to basically enter the building. Unfortunately, one of the Game's friends, Kevin Reed, was shot in the leg. And this is how the war between 50 Cent and Jimmy Henchman erupted. Both artists, The Game and 50 Cent, made a lot of diss songs to each other. The Game and Jimmy came up with a slogan called G-Unit to go against the G-Unit brand. After the shooting, things took a turn for the worse. In March 2007, Tony Ayo and his friend, and 50 Cent's friend, Lodi Mack, saw Jimmy Henchman's son walk out of his father's office wearing his Caesar Entertainment shirt. Lodi Mack grabbed Jimmy's son, threw him against the wall, slapped him, and also threatened to shoot him with a gun. Jimmy's son went back in the building to tell his father what happened. Jimmy lost it. He called his brother Mario. His brother told him that revenge is not the best thing to do. You gotta basically lay low. Jimmy replied and said, my kid was only 14. He's not even a grown adult. Jimmy chose violence. He got some of his people, got into a car, and drove to Tony Ayo's mom's house and shot up her house. He was hoping that someone was there, anybody, because he wanted that revenge of slapping his son. After that, allegedly, the G-Unit associate wound up burning down Jimmy Henchman's friends or associate, Trife's barbershop down in Retaliation. And Jimmy responded by trying to do a car bomb on his unit cars. And during the time that all this was happening, Lodi Mack was arrested for child endangerment for hitting his son. But that wasn't enough for him to basically get prison time. Jimmy wanted street revenge. So Lodi Mack was released in 2009. And while he was released, within 2 weeks of being out in the streets, someone came out the shadows and killed Lodi Mack. Around May 17, 2011, a warrant was out for Jimmy's arrest. Jimmy knew the walls were closing in. The police was able to find out Caesar Entertainment had become both a nexus and a cover for trafficking enterprise for cocaine. And the cocaine would be wrapped in plastic, slided in mustard, packed in musical equipment boxes sent from Los Angeles to a rehearsal studio in New York. Once the drugs were retrieved, the equipment boxes would be sent back to LA loaded with millions in cash. Jimmy and his associates used burner phones, encrypted their messages and emails. With so many artists coming and going on various projects, no one was wiser of the contraband-filled road cases shipped through Interscope Records. Jimmy called his brother to handle his money because he didn't trust anybody else. A lot of people was basically turning over and flipping on him. And there was a manhunt looking for Jimmy until June 21st. And Jimmy's close associate, Tef Stewart, and Khalil Abdullah told him about everything. How they were trafficking drugs, and also they're the reason why they found out about the murder for hire for Lodi Mack. Police was looking for Mario because he felt that he could put more pieces to the puzzle. And also too, by him basically getting that money from Jimmy, that implicated him in the crime. He went to Mexico to hide from the police, but that didn't last. They wound up catching him. Jimmy got sentenced to life in prison. His brother Mario is still waiting trial to be sentenced. He's facing 5 years to life. Jimmy's still fighting to get out of prison. And, you know, he had an unlikely ally that was trying to help him out, and it was Donald Trump when he was president. And one of the things is that as a president that is about to leave office, they can pardon certain people. But unfortunately, that never happened. But there is a good thing out of this story. His son is still holding the legacy of Jimmy Henchman when it comes to the music industry, legally. And he's a music manager for one of the top talents. And if you don't know when it comes to music, Ice Spice, the person who made the song The Munch that made the world or America go crazy. And she's killing the game right now.
Shit on 300 and then I perform. You know I'ma get to
And that's it for the doc. Please like and subscribe. I appreciate y'all tuning in. Thank you so much.